Now, when it comes to reading and maths, Australian kids are lagging behind, according to a new report.
Yeah, a major review of our education system has found that our children are having trouble keeping up with kids in Asia. So what are we doing wrong? Teacher Sharon Witt joins us from Melbourne. Good morning, Sharon. What did the report have to say about how our kids are performing?
Good morning. How are you going? Well, it actually said over the past decade Australia has gone from equal second to equal seventh in reading, and it also said that an average 15-year-old Australian male is actually 2 years behind his Shanghai counterpart. So it was a little bit damning. But also, it actually said that official figures show that we're still ahead of standards in Britain and the United States. It was just really our neighbouring China that we actually fell behind on.
Sharon,
so it's not as alarming as it sounds.
Mm-hmm. Why is it that kids in neighbouring Asian countries are doing so much better?
Look, I think they actually have quite a different environment, I guess. When it comes to education, they actually place a lot of significance on their education. And, you know, we've all heard of the tiger mums, where they actually have their children spending a lot of extra time outside of school studying and reviewing their maths and their literacy. And I think in Asia they actually spend a lot more time on these things. In Australia, our children, they come out of school and they're in sporting pursuits, they're on social media, they're doing a lot of other things. Our students just aren't spending many hours each night reviewing things that they would be in Asia. So I think, you know, there's got to be a balance, and I think it's really quite difficult to actually try and compare them to an Asian country where they actually have a lot more emphasis on study.
Well, Sharon, does the onus then fall on the schools, or do parents need to take a greater role in this?
Yeah, look, it's interesting, as a high school teacher that I am, I think many parents think that, you know, the education actually occurs between the hours of 9 and 3 p.m. and then it's done for the day. But actually, our parents actually need to step up and take a greater role. I mean, we all need to read with our children every night. You know, our high school kids need to be reading, and we need to be revising over the key maths, you know, things that they learn during the day. I think, you know, some of us, we think that education just happens during the day. We actually need to be very proactive outside of the home as well, and helping reinforce the things that are learnt during the day.
Sharon, the report was also critical of how much funding goes to private schools. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I work in the private system, and I think, you know, look, the funding is quite a difficult topic. I think schools are, no matter what their funding is, I think it's down to, you know, teachers. You have teachers that are working in the public system, the private system. Yes, the funding does help, but in the end, it is the education policies that you have, it's the teachers, and I think, you know, no matter how much money is poured into schools, every school can provide wonderful education for our children. I think it really is an overarching thing that we need to have. We need to involve parents, we need to encourage our children to study outside of school and revise, and yeah, I think it's a holistic approach.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon.